大家好. I am delighted to be invited to FinTech Taipei 2021 to share my views on digital transformation cases, and I really hope you all find my remarks interesting and hopefully helpful. Over the next 10 minutes or so, I will outline examples and experiences of digital transformation initiatives from across the asset management and wealth management industries. In order to do this, I'll first set the context for digitization today and why the need by business leaders for focus and urgency has never been higher. Then I will outline 4 major themes that challenge or impede digital transformation programs. Finally, I will share my observations on the implications for business strategy, the why, implementation approaches, the how, and organization and talent, the who. My name is Damien Mooney, and I've lived and worked in Asia for the past 15 years. I'm currently responsible for leading the wealth technology business for BlackRock in the Asia-Pacific region. But before I begin, it's important to highlight that as an asset manager, the money BlackRock manages is not our own. It belongs to the people in dozens of countries planning to finance long-term goals like retirement, putting their children through school and college, or buying a first home. And we have a deep fiduciary responsibility to these institutions and individuals, teachers, firefighters, doctors, business people, and many others, to promote long-term value so that they can reach their financial goals. Our clients depend on us to account for long-term risks that affect their investments, and it is with this in mind that we invest so much in our own technology and analytics. We are a leading global asset management firm, but we also provide our proprietary digital and technology solutions to asset management companies and other financial institutions, including wealth management firms around the world, so that they too have access to our investment and risk management platforms. So BlackRock Solutions is the technology division for the firm, and our mission is to help our clients transform their business through technology. Our technology unit has become a core driver of growth for us, and we now have over 4,500 technologists across the firm, the majority of which work on our Aladdin Risk Analytics and portfolio management platform. This has required a technologist mindset and an ability to adapt, and I'd like to share some of our learnings with you today. Let me start with some brief remarks and context, which no doubt will be familiar to all of you. Digital transformation is now an imperative, particularly for so-called traditional financial institutions, where their focus is much now on relevancy and survival, given the pace being set by new fintechs disrupting all parts of the financial services ecosystem. Although the context for digital transformation has been well known for many years, it's likely fair to say that within the context of financial services in the world of asset and wealth management, this part of the industry really has been more of a laggard in terms of disruption. But today, now, it's prime time for disruption. And the global pandemic, frankly, has catalyzed this to the extent it's really hard to envisage this pace of change slowing down from here. In earlier years, the emergence of agile fintech firms likely was not really taken that seriously by the incumbents in the industry. Robinhood was not a household name in 2019, for example. Now, it's a really different story, with expectations for highly personalized and omni-channel customer experiences being the norm, but with traditional players scrambling to future-proof their businesses via digital change or digital transformation programs. So, the industry is now playing catch-up on digital transformation. And this topic is now at the top of the CEO agenda as leaders acknowledge the imperative to go digital. A remarkable statistic from research undertaken by Roubini Thought Labs investment study recently bears this out. In 2020, their survey results revealed that only 24% of CEOs said that digital transformation was unimportant or slightly important. This year, 96% of CEOs responded that digital transformation was not only important, but was central to their businesses. As Lao Tzu once said, if you do not change direction, you may end up where you're heading. And we know this from experience. Real change is really difficult. There are so many challenges and impediments to digital transformation, but I would like to briefly highlight 4 major obstacles which I have observed through my professional experiences. First off, culture. Let's start with the single most difficult challenge facing organizations wanting to transform digitally: culture. I will come back to this, but firms that lack vision and top-down leadership on change programs really struggle to effectively innovate and change. The second one is legacy. My colleagues and I oftentimes joke that the biggest competitor we face when trying to sell in new technology solutions is the in-house IT department and/or Excel spreadsheets. I mean, all jokes aside, the challenges of legacy system architecture and infrastructure are all too real today. Modernizing and overhauling core systems is a slow and hugely expensive process. Thirdly, data. Linking to the point I just mentioned on legacy systems, the proliferation of disparate data sources, likely housed in information silos across multiple systems, obstructs data movement. The platformization of the industry is driving data consolidation and connectivity, but again, it's slow and laborious. Which brings me to my 4th point, which is inertia. Last but by no means least, the reluctance of firms to change due to concerns oftentimes about low uptake. Will the investment be worth the payback? And this manifests itself in many ways, but certainly pre-pandemic, reluctance to risk investing in new technology was quite high. It now feels like firms are more willing to break this inertia given the seismic changes we have now seen, particularly around customer behavior and expectations. Again, going back to my point earlier about it being now an imperative. So thus far, my remarks have been about setting the context, but now I want to bring those observations to life in terms of the implications that this has on digital transformation in today's business environment, in terms of that why, how, and who. So let's start with the why. A few minutes ago, I described culture as being one of the potential obstacles for digital transformation. There is no doubt in my mind that businesses that have defined their digital ambitions clearly are much more likely to succeed. But what do I mean by this? Well, first, bridging that gap between the business and technology is crucial for defining this digital vision. It's really about setting this ambition from the firm's kind of leadership level through a top-down goal and vision statement and strategy, but then combining this with a bottom-up approach to how you think about implementation and execution, ensuring that broad organizational alignment takes place. To achieve this, firms need leaders with real conviction in digital, and importantly, the ability to support the business case for transformation. In the way in which there have been, I guess, 1,000, maybe 100,000 case studies built using Apple as an exemplar for customer-centric design products. More often in our region today, industry experts will single out someone like Piyush Gupta of DBS as a visionary digital leader, and he is. In fact, DBS, as an example, have made huge strides in the digitization journey. After all, their corporate strapline is now live more, bank less. However, it's not just about having a strong leader with the longer-term vision and strategy. Clearly, that's important. The underlying culture needs to be one of innovation and collaboration. Most, if not all, the firms that we work with seeking change need to be willing to experiment, frankly, to fail, but also to partner with external firms such as fintechs. And all this, particularly for traditional firms, requires a cultural mindset shift. It's very easy to say, it's much, much harder to actually accomplish. Moreover, strong executive response remains a critical element of a successful digital transformation strategy. I've referred to this before. The tone from the top really does make a digital difference. Now let's turn to the how. Successful digital transformations don't happen by themselves. Of course they don't. They require sophisticated and complex, oftentimes multi-year implementation programs. And there are so many ways to approach this how. But again, based on my own personal experiences, I propose to highlight 5 ways, 5 areas. First off, number one, before you start, determine actually where you are on the digital maturity spectrum. Is your firm at the beginning stage, or are you on some transition path to digital leadership in your own industry category? This is really, really important to sort of benchmark where you are as a start point. And this can really best be defined by assessing your firm's current strengths and weaknesses at meeting customer expectations today. I've mentioned this before, this expectation by customers is moving so fast. But once you've made this assessment, build your path and your plan. Number two, as you design the implementation plan, place your customer or client at the heart of your planning. For example, what is the right model for your redesigned customer experience? Will it be 100% digital? Will it be hybrid? What will the customer journeys look like in terms of personas? What will be your measures of client success around important aspects such as engagement and commercialization? Thirdly, think about digital transformation as a process of continual or continuous improvement. Effective transformations can often depend on cross-functional teams with a startup or entrepreneurial approach, with broad ownership of the customer experience. This is becoming so important. To do that, really defining smart collaboration models with third parties, be they partnerships with large tech players or even nimble startups or a combination of both, that's really crucial. But also thinking about how you do that and deliver internally, innovation labs or other internal initiatives that can augment innovation and foster digital development. Fourthly, I mentioned data. I'm back at data again. How do you manage and leverage data effectively? In our experiences, partnering with financial institutions, data management is typically the most underestimated, but the most complex problem. Data is typically now the most valuable asset a firm can have, but unless there's a defined plan to unify the data sets or create data lakes to underpin the digital plans, they can quickly fail. And on top of that, but need to say, there is a need for a bulletproof cybersecurity plan. That's a must. Know which data needs to be protected, have systems installed to protect this critical data, know that detection is as important as protection, and of course have best-in-class response and recovery plans. And fifth and finally, define the right technology stack and keep abreast of all the latest technology developments. I think it's important to systematically track because there is so much emerging technology which is coming through all the time. Migration of legacy systems these days to cloud will generally allow for the ease of ability to drive future-forward solutions, which are more and more using APIs, machine learning, artificial intelligence, potentially distributed ledger technology, and other smart technologies. A lot to consider there. Thirdly, the who. This is where the best designed digital transformation strategies can flounder and fail. The most successful companies establish cross-functional teams, as I referred to before, for the business transformation initiatives. However, the experience in financial services mirrors the talent challenges in the digital transformations of other sectors. The key is having the right blend of talent to lead and implement successful transformations programs. For example, in asset and wealth management as an industry, talent with both investment expertise and deep digital knowledge is really not that commonplace. Those with extensive digital and technology skills perhaps could be more likely to build careers in pure technology companies rather than in financial services. In addition, pure play tech talent oftentimes comes with a different mindset. The non-regulated, fail-fast variety, for example, compared to the more conservative and highly regulated environments within financial services, there's often a cultural challenge there in blending this talent together. Therefore, developing thoughtful human resource plans to attract and develop digital talent is now a critical element of every business facing the challenges of digital disruption and transformation. And in addition, as I discussed earlier around the challenge of culture change, new ways of working definitely are required and need to be introduced to sort of catalyze and support business transformation. You heard the term these days of agile working approaches, and these really are becoming much more of the norm. They have to be. These newer working approaches are so commonplace in financial institutions. We talk about agile product teams aligned around value streams, and really the design and delivery of minimum viable product approaches, which revolves around iterative prototyping, sprints with feedback where you course correct, pilots, and of course POCs, a proof of concepts. But these new ways of working and managing, frankly, the talent challenge traditional functional organizational structures, but they're really essential to driving change across firms because of that requirement for agile and the multidisciplinary approach. There's never been a more exciting time to be involved in digital transformation. It has evolved really from being a feature-led change bit here and there initiative to a fully fledged whole business change program. As I mentioned earlier, it's now about continual improvement. The advancements in business models, FinTech participation and disruption, the really big change in client expectations, and of course technology developments, these are all combining to create this really heady mix within which firms must adapt and plan for. Of course, but frankly, the global pandemic has actually accentuated this volatile environment such that digitization, as I said, is now an imperative. Without change, firms will lose relevancy and fall way behind. We all now know this. In simple terms, digital transformation in the asset and wealth industries was underway, but the pandemic has given it a huge push in terms of implementation and adoption. The success of digital transformation requires a firm to adjust its culture to a digital mindset with strong leadership from the top. Implementation programs require multidisciplinary and cross-functional teams to collaborate effectively with internal stakeholders and, of course, external partners. How firms shape their organization for such transformations will in large part determine their success or their failure. Thank you for watching.